In this episode of Children of Heroes, we headed about an hour southeast from London to Wokingham, where we interviewed Linda and Jon Nixon, daughter and grandson of leading aircraft woman Ljuba Salačová.
Thank you for participating in our project Children of Heroes. Your mother served in the Royal Air Force during the Second World War.
She did, yes.
Can you tell us more about her childhood, about her life in France?
So my mum came with her family in 1940. Her father was working at the Czech consulate in Lille, France, and they were evacuated because the Germans were about to invade France. I guess the Czech government in exile in London organised it. So I don't think they had very much time to get ready. It was kind of just pack some stuff and get to Boulogne. And they came over by boat, and that was a very traumatic experience for my mum. She couldn't swim, and since then she never liked being on the water. And also the English Channel was mined, so I think maybe she heard some explosions. She was in this boat with a family, and whenever she talked about it, you could tell it was upsetting for her. The family, they were living in Surbiton. An English family gave them space to live. So my grandfather, he worked in London in First Croft House, which was quite a big building in Marylebone, and I think the Czechs were given it as offices, the Czech government in exile. The two younger children went to school, and eventually my mum, and she had a sister a year younger, Vera, they went off to an Anglo-Czech school called Hinton Hall in Whitchurch, Shropshire. I think the idea was that they would learn English and also help out at the school. I think they were too old to be actually in education at that point, so they were listed as domestics. Her eldest brother, Vladimir, he continued with his studies for a while, and then he joined the RAF and went into 311 Squadron. And I guess the two sisters wanted to follow their older brother, because eventually my mum and Vera also went into the WAFs, the women's RAF, really.
She joined the Royal Air Force at the age of 19?
Yes, she did, yeah, and her sister must have been 18. So by then they would have learnt English. I think maybe my grandfather influenced them. So the story for me starts with Jan Salač. So that's my grandfather. So this photo, he was a Czech legionnaire in the 1st Cavalry. Obviously, well, just going by the medals, and the impression I've got from my cousins, who actually, the eldest one remembers him. I think he was a very brave man.
You have a photo of your grandma.
Yeah, this is So he met my grandma, Elizaveta. She was Russian, and she was born in Yekaterinburg. And he met her while he was in the army there, and they got married, and then they had to escape back to Czechoslovakia, and that was a terrible time for them. It took them nearly a year to get back. Well, this is a kind of a repeat of the story, really. So my grandfather brought this foreign girl back home to meet his family. And she'd had typhus on that journey and lost all her hair, so she was bald, foreign, and it was like, this is my wife, and she wasn't accepted. So it's like my mum repeated that pattern.
What was exactly her role?
I think it was called aircraftswoman, and then she was a leading aircraftswoman. So she got a promotion, some kind of admin work.
What were her strongest memories of the war?
Actually, I mean, it sounds strange to say, but she was happy, which is a strange thing to say about the war, but she talked about those days being happy. Interestingly, my mum's written on the back, happy days. So that's why, it ties in with the impression she gave of being in the war. that.
Can you recognize her?
Yeah, I can actually. She's on the right-hand side and she's third from the back, and her sister's just behind her. Yeah, I did recognise her. Yeah, I mean she was young and probably had quite a carefree character at that time, I would say, and she enjoyed the socialising. I think a lot of people, not enjoyed is not the right word really, but they were nostalgic for the wartime spirit that was around then. Everybody pulling together against a common enemy. And I think when she was that age, probably didn't look too much into the future. And she also had a wartime romance with my father. Most of the relationship was done by letter, because he then was posted abroad. I'm not convinced she knew him that well when they eventually got. Do you know what I mean? It was just like lots of letters. And like I say, I think she was caught up in the romance of it.
She stayed in England?
Yeah, because she'd met my dad, but the rest of the family went back to Prague. And she did say that her father really tried to dissuade her from staying, but she was very stubborn, my mum, and quite headstrong. But anyway, she stayed. And my father never met her family, and she hadn't met his family until she went up to the northeast of England before they got married. So it's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
So that was the start of their married life. They were living with my father's parents, quite a small house. She got pregnant straight away with my eldest brother. And then my father found a job on Teesside. There was big chemical works on Teesside, and he got a job there. And they got the first home together, so I think that was a bit better. So when my dad took my mum up to meet his family, they were a bit surprised, I think, that he brought this foreign girl home. I mean, she could speak English by then, but probably still had an accent. I don't think she found them particularly welcoming at first. I think it was just strange for them all. Her name's Ljuba, Ljuba, and of course no one at that time could pronounce the name, and she was very self-conscious about that. And her first pregnancy, I know she had some problems, and her mother-in-law had said to her, "Oh, it's because you've got foreign blood." A lot of ignorance at that time.
She worked part-time as an interpreter?
She had 4 children, so she was a full-time mum, really. Later on, she had some part-time work, but she did register to do some translating, and I was still at school, a teenager.
She returned to Czechoslovakia after the Velvet Revolution.
She did.
In 1989.
Yeah, she did.
How was it for her?
It was quite moving. Last year, John and I went to meet some family in Kladno. They remembered that vividly, and it had a big effect on my cousin Jana. But unfortunately, her father had already died by then. So, and she was very close to her father. But she met her mum, so that, I mean, I can imagine that was quite emotional, meeting your mum after all those years. Yeah, and after that she made regular visits.
You were born in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, yes.
But you always felt a very strong emotional connection to your Czech family. Is that right?
Yes, but not in a good way, actually. So my mum, she was very homesick. So my memories of being Czech were not, in the beginning as I was growing up, it was a bit taboo, to be honest. It wasn't talked about openly. My father didn't want her to be upset. He felt she was quite an emotional woman, which I guess from his point of view she was. It was never talked about openly because he didn't want my mum being upset. She didn't teach her children Czech either. It was kind of mysterious for me, the whole Czech thing, and I didn't actually feel part of it, if I'm honest. And she called it home, and that was upsetting for me because a child wants the mum to be happy, and I wanted her to be happy in our home where we lived. And I think because I was the only girl, I became her little confidant when I was quite young, and it had a negative effect on me. I think I absorbed a lot of her sadness, and then I was very aware that she wasn't happy and that there was somewhere else she wanted to be, and this somewhere was Czechoslovakia, which was a mystery to me. It was far away. I didn't understand the language. Sometimes I'd hear her talking on the phone, and it wasn't like my mum because she was speaking in Czech. She always was fluent in Czech. I had very mixed feelings about it.
How were your feelings when you arrived to Czechoslovakia after 1989?
Well, I didn't go till last year. I went with mixed feelings, really, because I was going to meet strangers. They were family, but they were strangers to me. I mean, I went with an open mind and I was hoping that there was something there for me. And actually there was. We got a wonderful welcome, didn't we? Mm-hmm. I didn't really make contact with them until after my mother died, because I was at a pivotal point. My mum died during COVID and I thought, I can either draw a line under this, my mum and the whole Czech thing, and just get on with my life, or I can confront it really and reach out to my relatives, which is what I decided to do. At that time, one of my mum's siblings, a younger brother, Robert, was still alive, living in Kladno, and I felt like I wanted to see him, and I had to get on with it really, because he was 93, and that was very moving actually to meet him. He smiled when he saw me because he recognised me, because him and I, we looked alike. And he was like, yeah, you're a Salach. And it was just so easy. It was just so easy right from the beginning, wasn't it? And they'd laid out a lovely welcome. My mum was, if anyone came, it was always about the food. You have to put lots of food out. And my cousin Jana had done the same thing, and I thought, oh, this is a family trait then. The table was laden with food, and it was eat and eat more. My mum was exactly the same. So yeah, I'm really glad that we went, because the connection was really healing for me.
You decided to become a psychotherapist.
Yeah, I did.
Is it connected?
Who knows? It could be connected. But I think it's more than that. I think there's something in me that is very curious about people and why they do what they do, why they feel what they feel, why they act how they act. But yeah, I think because of my personal experience, I did start to read lots of books about mental health and psychology. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing that I've always been interested in.
While growing up, you were very close to your grandmother?
Yes,
Is that
definitely,
right?
yes, very close. And yeah, for all intents and purposes, growing up, yeah. She was a normal grandma. I used to go there after school in the school holidays. We were very close. Used to feed me all the time, didn't she? That was another thread.
Yes, yeah.
I remember the phone calls though. Like
do you remember them? Yeah.
I remember. Yeah, she would stand and call home from the phone in the hallway, because that's where the phone was upstairs. And it was that was a bit strange, because you didn't know my grandma.
Do you understand
I didn't know her
Czech?
speaking. No, she never taught any Czech to any of her children or grandchildren.
Pivo.
Yeah, that's the most important word. Right?
What's your profession?
I work balancing the UK electrical grid. Mm-hmm. So I work for the National Energy System Operator. Yeah, controlling the power grid of the country, basically.
But you spent some time in Switzerland for your job?
Yes, I used to work at CERN in Geneva in the control room for the Large Hadron Collider.
How was it?
That was a fantastic experience. Yeah, I liked living in Europe, meeting people from different cultures, and I used to work in French as well, so I had to learn French for that, which was my grandma's second language.
What are your hobbies?
Hobbies?
Cars.
Yeah, anything to do with cars, but like fixing cars as well, not just buying or driving them. Anything to do with fixing things or anything electrical. Mm-hmm. I can repair things. I rewired the whole house that I bought several years ago, and also like sound for like live music and musical theatre. I do a lot of sound and backstage stuff in like the events industry as a hobby.
Tomorrow you will pick up your Czech passport.
Yes. I've just completed the application process for Czech citizenship through descent, because apparently my grandma lost her citizenship when she married my granddad, because at the time there was no possibility to have double nationality, and there's a process in place now where descendants can reclaim that. So I've submitted all the documentation and just found out last week that my application was successful. So that's a big...
Congratulations.
Thank you, yes, thank you.
I have a question for both of you. How much did your Czech heritage influence your lives?
You go first.
I don't know, really. I don't know. But it influenced me because you named me after. I've got a
Yeah,
Czech name,
yeah.
essentially, so it was always there. I always knew growing up.
Yeah,
that was,
I always told you, didn't I, who you were named after.
My great grandfather, yeah.
I also think my grandfather was really good at languages. And I was good at languages at school. I'd never been abroad, but I seemed to learn languages easily. And then you did when you went to CERN.
I wasn't at school, but I moved abroad and then had to learn.
But
I learned quickly there.
You learned quickly,
Yes.
yeah. There were, yeah.
I did well. I think it's helped me living in Europe. There's something. I found it a lot easier to adapt than maybe some people from the UK would.
So
I feel more European than
I think it's in the
British
genes.
person. So I think it's helped me somehow. I don't know how, but I've felt I adapted to it quite easily, very easily.